The glass windows shattered into a million pieces because of the scorching heat. The top floor of the house was engulfed in flames, and it looked like the roof was going to collapse at any moment. The thick black smoke was suffocating. Where are they? How much time do I have left? I could hear the sirens of the approaching ambulances. Where are they? I jolted awake. I grew up in a family of firefighters. My grandfather and my dad had both been commander of the local fire department. As a small boy, I would tag along to the fire station and listened eagerly to all of the exciting stories. During the school holidays, I rode alongside my father in the fire truck. This is how I slowly but surely got the hang of the profession. My family didn't do much talking at home. My father worked extremely hard, and my mother took care of the household tasks and raised me and my two sisters. Everything revolved around my father's working hours. At any time of the day, he could be called for an emergency. Sometimes when he came back home early in the morning, his face revealed a deep sadness. We never dared to ask what had happened, fearing his reaction. "Leave your father alone," my mother would say when he angrily stormed off to the shed where he always went whenever he wanted to be alone. It was only later on in my life that I understood what he went through. Sadly, I was never able to talk to him about it because in my last year of high school, he was found in the shed. My mother never told us what had happened and how he had passed away. Only later did I come to understand how lonely he must have been. I was overwhelmed with sadness. My father was my hero, my role model. Luckily, I was able to start the initial training as a firefighter straight after receiving my high school diploma. By working hard, I was able to deal with the loss of my father and carry on his legacy. We cleaned our gear, inspected the fire trucks, and ensured that all equipment was in order to respond immediately to any emergency. The weather was fierce. Rain slashed against the windows, and the wind howled through the streets. It was already dark when the fire alarm went off. I knew the house and the woman who lived there with her two little girls. She hadn't moved in too long ago, after she had divorced from her husband. She was a friendly woman who brought her children to nursery school on her bike every morning. I could feel my heart pound in my chest. Hopefully there was nothing wrong. Hopefully they were safe. It didn't take longer than 6 minutes to arrive at the location, but to me, it felt like an eternity. The neighborhood community had gathered and formed a line from the ditch and were passing along buckets of water to each other. Other people had brought blankets and stood shell-shocked, watching the disaster unravel before their eyes. The roof was engulfed in flames, and the fire was rapidly spreading. My colleague and I didn't hesitate a single moment. We quickly put on our protective gear and put on the oxygen masks. We forced open the door and started our search for the mother and her two girls. It was pitch black. The smoke was horribly thick, and the temperature was extremely hot. Downstairs in the kitchen, living room, we could not find anyone. We walked up the burning staircase and found the mother unconscious in her room. She had inhaled toxic gases, but I felt her pulse, and my colleague carried her down. Where are they? How much time do I have left? The staircase to the attic had now collapsed. A feeling of hopelessness overcame me. Even with all my years of experience, I was unable to reach the two girls. The heat was unbearable. I had already been inside for more than 15 minutes, and my oxygen was beginning to run out. I heard a loud whistle, which was the signal that I needed to go back. The thought of leaving two girls behind made me miserable. Where are they? When I came back to the truck, I broke down in tears. Later, it turned out that also, the mother had not survived. The weeks and months after it were very difficult for me to cope with the disaster. During our training, we had learned how to deal with any traumatic situation that may occur, but this was real. I had not been able to save the lives of 3 beautiful people. I had failed. Every time I saw a woman with 2 kids, I thought of that friendly mother with her cute children. I blamed myself for not being able to save them. At night in bed, I went over every detail, every step. Did I do everything I could? Did I overlook something? I became unsure about everything, had difficulty to fall asleep, and felt myself retreat further into my own world. I wasn't someone who went to see a doctor quickly, but I was falling into what seemed like deep, dark hole. I would become panicked whenever I smelled smoke or heard a siren. I was afraid to go outside and had no desire to see anyone. I started to neglect myself, kept using more and more alcohol to fall asleep, hoping it would make my crippling nightmares go away. Of course, it didn't. One morning, my sister found me at the bottom of the staircase of my home. I was entered into a clinic and started receiving treatment from a psychiatrist. She told me that I suffered from a post-traumatic stress disorder, which was also referred to as PTSD, a physical and mental condition in which traumatic experiences are relived in different ways during unexpected moments. After a while, when I started to feel a bit better, my psychologist introduced me to an organization that trained service dogs to help people like me feel less isolated and to help when it came to panic attacks. I had never heard of such an organization, and up until recently, I wasn't even in a state to take on someone else, not even a dog. I was put on waiting list, and after following a rigorous selection process, I was able to greet my new friend, a white male Labrador, very calm and sociable. There was an instant bond when we met the first time. He makes me feel safe. At night, he lies by my feet and wakes me up when I panic. Then he licks my hand and I pat him to calm down. There is stability in my life again. I feel so much better about myself. I sleep better and feel much stronger. After years of guilt and isolation, I've recently started volunteering at the center that trains my dog. I have learned how to deal with my fears and feelings, and now I want to share my story with other people who are suffering from PTSD. I still often think about what happened that day of the fire, but along with my pal Joe, I can process those feelings in a healthy way and look forward to new things to come.